Welcome to the Cincy Postcast. I'm your host, Kevin Wallace, and before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about our sponsor, Streetside Brewery, one of the best Cincinnati breweries you can find, folks. They are so good. Huge fan of all of their beers. Love the tap room. I try to get there as often as I can. Great place to watch a Reds game, by the way. The environment is just so chill and relaxed. They have a great patio that's pet friendly, the patio only, mind you. But they always have food trucks and things. And this coming weekend, they got some events coming up. One of my favorite things that they do, they constantly have live music. Tim Snyder is playing Saturday, 3 to 6. You got Michael T. and Friends playing from 7 to 10 on Saturday, again, June 29th. And then again on Sunday, you got Kyle English from 3 to 6 on Sunday. Don't forget, 9 a.m., Formula One watch party as well, Austrian Grand Prix. There's some good stuff going on always at Streetside. Huge fans of theirs. Thank you so much to Streetside for sponsoring this episode. If you want to check out some of these events, you head on over to 4003 Eastern Avenue, Columbia, Tusculum, and you can check them out there. But if you can't make it down, you can always buy their beer the next time you end up at the store buying beer for your next event, hangout, or just chilling out, whatever. So again, huge thank you to Streetside. Huge thank you to you for buying some Streetside beer. And on today's episode, well, we go further on the Weston McKennie potential transfer for FC Cincinnati. Folks, spoiler for the conversation, it's more real than we thought on Sunday. Lots to talk about with this one, okay? A lot of conversation there. Then in part two, it's a bit of a mixed bag of FCC news and related news, including Matt Miazga's injury update, U.S. men's national team friendlies, and of course, we get to your Patreon questions in that section as well. Some really funny questions in there. We wrap it all up in part three with a preview of the FC Dallas match. Who exactly are we going to see in this game? And is there anybody from FCC 2 that you should go ahead and get excited about before this weekend? All of that and more in a very long episode of the Postcast. Joining me to talk about all of that and more, I'm joined by two gentlemen who continue to earn their stripes in the Twitter wars against the United States men's national team online fan base. I'm joined by the Chief. I'm joined by Grayson. Chief, have you ever been more happy to be out of supporters group leadership?
It certainly frees what you can say without having to worry about, repercussions for speaking on behalf of the group. I don't know. These people are weird, man. They're weird. We talked a little bit about it on the last episode. I don't know. It's all stemming out of the Weston McKennie thing and the continued fallout from that. I just profoundly don't understand at my core soccer fans who don't go to soccer games. And then not only don't do it, but also lord that over you. That I'm a better fan because I don't go to games. That the team I support exists a continent away. And look, I don't begrudge anyone for being into the Premier League. I don't begrudge anyone from being into the Bundesliga, Serie A, whatever it is. I'm a Chelsea guy. I like Chelsea. But when there's a local club to root for, that's just better. And if you don't think so, I am going to say you're being a fan wrong. If you're going to sit here and tell me that going to games is dumb. And you're especially dumb if you're going to sit here and say, I don't go to games because I disagree with the business and tax document that organizes the team you root for. I don't care anymore. So I'm going to fight with these people because it's better than doing actual work during the workday.
Do you think like the average Manchester United fan from the United States understands that like Manchester United is a publicly traded company?
I mean, do they understand that it was bought with debt service by the owner of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Like, do they know that too?
Right.
I'm sometimes curious. I would love to know the answer to this question. I would love to know what fans of these teams in Europe think of fans of these teams in America. Like, really think. Like, he's a Manchester United supporter. Was he from Manchester? No. He lives in a town. Well, does he support his club? No, he doesn't go to the game in his town. He only supports you. I think even if you're rooting for the same team, I think a lot of these people would think you're weird.
I think they actively dislike them. I think it's useful in that like an American fan injects more money into your local club, and that's probably good. And in general, you like that there are fans around the country or around the world for your team. But like at the end of the day, it has cost them quite a bit. Ticket prices have gone up to placate tourists who are doing a once-in-a-lifetime trip to the stadium, or TV times are at weirder and weirder times to placate a growing international audience. Like Manchester City, for sure, has more fans outside of England than it does inside of England. That club functionally doesn't belong to the people in Manchester anymore.
No, and I want to make it very clear. I respect you if you want to follow. And if you got a club team overseas, like I said, I got one too. But yeah. I'm never going to get it twisted to the point where it's, well, I'm not going to follow FC Cincinnati or a local team because we do it wrong here. And the proper way of support is rooting for a club a continent away that you never actually go to see. That's just profoundly strange to me. But that is your average U.S. men's national team fan on Twitter. It's a person who is deeply invested in the U.S. national team, who doesn't go to games locally, always has some Euro super club that they support as well. And that would be fine, but then they actively shit on you for having the audacity to support your local club. And, maybe thinking, it would be cool if better players came to play at my club.
Grayson, I was trying to think of this. Like, what is the equivalent in like movie fandom of like somebody who won't go to like a local film festival or even like, I don't know, like attend like a movie screening of Dune at the AMC in Newport because it's not the 80 by 120 projector that you can find at like the Chinese theater in LA or something like.
I don't know that there's like a 1-to-1 correlation, but I do feel like it's something adjacent to people who like hate everything Star Wars, but like build their entire presence, like online presence around like tweeting about Star Wars.
Yes.
Like they've hated everything that has come out in their lifetime.
Yes.
Right? Like it's every single thing that has come out since you've been born. You hate, and you don't just hate, you hate it so badly like it shows up on everybody's For You tab. So it's kind of like that. I guess I don't, on the like foreign league stuff, I do get amused when like there was that one dude who had hashtag USMNT, hashtag Real Madrid, and that was like in his profile. And like, I don't know people's lives, but like his name wasn't Spanish.
Right. His profile picture stereotypically didn't look like a Spaniard, or dare I say Hispanic. But I mean, we're dipping into some
Spaniards are white dudes.
Agreed.
But it could have easily been like a Hilaria Baldwin situation. Okay. But the funniest thing I saw was like, and like you mentioned in the last episode, like I've not really dipped all that much into it. I've seen it, of course. Mm-hmm. Is the guy is when they're saying like, oh, Cincy fans are real mad. It's like, and you like click on this guy's profile and he's done nothing but tweet about how mad he is about Weston going to Cincinnati for like 3 days. or
how mad he is about Greg Berhalter all the time.
Or the guy who called Kevin like a dork 4 days ago and is still tweeting about FC Cincinnati like today. It's like, you guys, you're all here. You're all doing this.
Right.
There's no non-dorks. You're not like sitting next to LeBron pulling up at like his house, right? Like hanging out with LeBron and Anthony Davis, pulling up your phone and just like firing off like 35,000 tweets about MLS and US soccer and stuff in between, like, you know, shots of Chris Stahl with Dua Lipa or whatever, the cool stuff that you're doing.
And like we're in the middle of a major tournament. The US men's national team is in the rare moment of like playing competitive matches where you can be discussing the lineups and tactics and moments from a game, and yet it is nonstop anger and vitriol at an MLS club for making a ambitious bid for a good player. Like,
and maybe the craziest take I saw today was people saying like, you know, Cincinnati fans are mad at McKennie for potentially staying in Europe and testing himself.
No.
Hand to my heart. I've not seen a single person say a single thing that makes me think that they might hold any kind of grudge against Weston McKennie if he doesn't sign with FC Cincinnati. No. All I have seen is people saying, boy, wouldn't it be great if he came here?
And that's only some of us, Chief. I would love to see these guys' reactions
the tepid take is like, I'm not sure it's the best fit.
Right.
But
who do we have to give up? Right.
What a fun idea to like just know that they're, you know, out there being ambitious, right?
So, within the trust tree, are we in the trust tree here in this podcast right here? I think we
would
are.
say so.
Nobody else is listening. Never mind.
Yeah. I think I'd be okay with the FC signing Weston McKennie just because of the meltdown that would occur online. That's the only. I think he's a terrible fit. I think he's a low ambition signing. I wish we would go after somebody better. But based on the reactions of just the rumor of him signing, oh my God.
My favorite has been the people already ratcheting down their perception of McKennie.
Yeah,
like,
they're calling him fat. They're saying that he can't hack it.
This is why he sucks. Yeah.
He has no future.
Yeah. There's that guy who's like been tweeting nonstop, who's had multiple tweets calling him an alcoholic, saying he's got like bloat from.
These are the fans of this team.
Abuse?
These are the fans of the U.S. national team saying this.
What?
What are we talking about, guys? Oh my God.
I mean, okay, and this all stems from, I'm sorry, like the only thing that FC Cincinnati fans are saying is, you know, it's good for our team to sign good players.
Yeah.
Right. That's it. This
is neat.
What's controversial about it? Is that like we don't, is that we would prefer our team sign a better player than that player play in Europe. That's it. And then you get into the talk about the fit, you get into the talk about, you know, DP slots and how we want to do DP slots. I think Chief, you know, I've been a little hard on you. A lot of what you say is like, it's not patently wholly offensive. Like,
no, that's a compliment.
But like calling it a low ambition signing is, I think, objectively untrue. I think you may think it's not ambitious in the way that you would like the team to be ambitious. But the things that would lead to this signing happening are definitionally ambitious.
Would literally be the largest transfer where a transfer fee is paid in MLS history.
You're making him one of the biggest transfers in MLS history. You are making him one of the 5 highest paid players in the league.
It becomes the American face of MLS.
Yeah, these are all. You don't have to like it.
No,
you don't have to like it.
These are
but
facts.
This is ambitious. These are facts. Okay. These are facts. These are ambitions.
These are facts. But I will say, and this is not hot take, Chief. This is actual, like, I believe, and I would.
That's for me to judge.
All right, fair enough. You do you. You take this how you find it. I really do believe, though, that when you talk about record transfers for MLS, you basically have to divide this league into 2 halves. You have to divide this league, the history of this league, into before Messi and after Messi in this regard. In that that's a game changer in terms of that redefines what big is in this league. And suddenly comparing, like, okay, here's the history of MLS transfers. All of a sudden, any list that has Brenner on it just seems so absurd when the top of the list is the greatest player to ever play, or one of the greatest players
on the list. He
came on a free. No, I get that, but no.
So the player, Brenner was ambitious.
That was ambitious.
It was ambitious.
Shaqiri was ambitious.
This is pre-Messi ambition.
We shit on that all the time, but like the Insigne and Bernadeschi signings for Toronto, that was ambitious.
At the time, in particular, yeah.
At the time, it was ambitious.
Sure,
it didn't work out for them in any like meaningful way.
And both of those guys were not yet 30. They were like 27 and 29.
They were full blown Italian national team players who were starters on their Serie A teams. And Shaqiri he's still in his 20s, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. But
the game
he
has
might
changed.
Be 30, but he's still scoring for Switzerland. Looked good in the Euros.
Yeah. The game has changed.
Yeah.
I mean, Brenner in particular is a signing that, like, if Everton had made, wouldn't have been immediately mocked. Like, it was
nobody had made a signing like Brenner in the history of the league.
Yes,
I think that's fair to say,
especially out of
Brazil, like young Brazilians with a lot of upside, had never come to MLS before Brenner.
Sure. I'm not debating.
They took flyers on South American players. You get somebody like Almiron was like a $1 or $2 million transfer, I think.
Yeah. No, yeah. I'm not shitting on any of this. I'm just saying that the game has changed now. And like the levels we're talking about are different. And is that fair? No, it's not fair. It absolutely isn't fair, because the confluence of events that led to Lionel Messi playing in MLS are just, it's different. But it's changed the math in terms of what does and does not move the needle in terms of a move in this league. And if the goal is to make a splash, to do something that like plants the flag for Cincinnati as a club of ambition, bringing back an American player, I don't care how talented it is, at $15 million, that's an interesting move. I think that you can debate robustly whether or not Weston McKennie is where he ranks in terms of overall talents to ever come to MLS. I would suggest we're probably grossly overrating Weston McKennie. That's my personal opinion. But in terms of like what's a splash anymore, it's not a splash. A splash would be bringing someone over on a $50 to $60 million transfer fee at this point. Someone who would be a locked on star in one of these leagues, not just a starter, a star. That's where we're at right now. Now, I think that the baseline expectation for teams in this league going forward is getting players like Weston McKennie. That's the expectation in this league. That is the next step for this league. That's not a giant leap forward. That is just taking the next logical step. And if it's me, what I want out of this club, what I want out of FC Cincinnati, and maybe it's not realistic, I want them to redefine and reset the bar. And this is not redefining or resetting the bar. This is gradually notching the bar up one. And that's just not exciting to me.
I would give that argument more credence if other teams were making Messi-like signings. If it wasn't just like Messi was this kind of weird outlier that, due to a confluence of events, happened to land on Miami. I mean, nobody else is doing stuff. Nobody else is doing stuff like that. And like Weston coming in, that's bigger than like Olivier Giroud coming in.
Categorically false.
It is. It is true.
Giroud is on a retirement tour. He's a Lampard Pirlo style signing.
Weston is in a better place in his career than Giroud is.
Yeah, because MLS has had that signing forever. Gerrard, Lampard, Pirlo. You can run down the list. Not Pogba, although he's in that category now. Drogba is what I was trying to say. These guys, these are dime a dozen these days.
David Villa,
yeah.
Thierry Henry.
No.
Yeah.
You're right that this isn't the Messi is not the norm, but it's I don't want FC Cincinnati to be the norm either. I want this team to aspire to bigger. I want this team to aspire to better. I want this team to go plant a flag somewhere.
And one way to be bigger is to say, for our DPs, we're going to get not like we're going to get we're going to bring over somebody in entering their prime who's getting 2,500 minutes for a top European team. Like, we're going to lure somebody over who, like, is not on a free, is not, like, starved for minutes, hasn't been a total flop in Europe, isn't in some random league like, Saudi Arabia or China or Turkey even. Yeah. We're pulling somebody from a top 3 league, from a top 3 team in that league, somebody who would be playing Champions League football this coming year.
Has options elsewhere.
I mean, Kelsey
has options elsewhere.
Kelsey played Champions League football. Let's.
But Kelsey wasn't playing. Kelsey was not playing, and he was playing in a random league.
He's in a random league on a good team, but not getting starting.
But not getting minutes.
Yeah.
And we're getting. He's the number 2 guy for the men's national team.
I think
like I don't think, I know you don't rate it, and I don't really rate it either, but as far as like stature, it's a factor. Like it's a box, right?
I mean, nobody gives a shit about American football outside of America. Like the rest of the world, we're a complete joke. The rest of the world, which is also part of the issue, is that if you are trying to plant your flag for FC Cincinnati and build the brand of this club outside of the United States, which is what MLS desperately needs to do. What MLS needs to do as a league, and I think what they're trying to do with Miami to a very large extent, is that MLS needs a team or a couple of teams where when other people that are soccer fans around the world, for all the top leagues in the world, when you name the league, no matter who else is in it, everybody knows 3 or 4 teams in every one of the top leagues. You can name 3 or 4 teams, more than that probably in the Premier League, but in Serie A, Bundesliga, La Liga, even like some of the other leagues in Europe, the Eredivisie, people can name teams in these leagues. The Brazilian League, the Liga MX, people know teams. The profile of teams in MLS is non-existent. I would be willing to bet that around the world, the New York Cosmos probably have a higher Q score than most MLS teams. And if you want to make FC Cincinnati, which I do, I want to make this a team with that like other people around the world know, and that is attractive to talent around the world. There has to be something that equalizes out the fact that we're not a coastal market. And having that reputation around the world is something that can do that. It's why people go to Manchester when it's Detroit with bad food. And signing an American, it doesn't do that. Nobody cares. Half the world doesn't know who Weston McKennie is. The rest of them, as soon as they find out he's an American, probably figure he's got 2 left feet and got cut from his high school football team. Like,
well, I'm impressed how far you've moved the goalposts from whether this is an ambitious signing or not. Because my entire point at the beginning was that this is an ambitious signing it might not be ambitious in the way that you want the club to be ambitious. And what you've done for the last, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes is explain that I was exactly right. That it's not ambitious in the way that you want the club to be ambitious. But you've done nothing to disprove that it is a, breed of ambitious move. I'm happy to close the Weston McKennie topic.
You can't just decide when the topic's done. You can't just decide that.
I will say, Chief, your attitude towards an American player is the exact attitude that allows this signing to happen, which is he is a good player, whether we want to admit it or not. On a global scale, Weston McKennie is a very, very good player, and he is undervalued in Europe. I think, sure, he is going to be overvalued in coming to the U.S., but that is the only way you are getting a player that is under the age of 26 years old, that gets this many minutes, that is this successful to come to MLS. If Weston McKennie is Brazilian, he's a $50 million transfer to Arsenal. If he's French, he's a $100 million transfer to PSG. He's American, he's a $15 million transfer to MLS, or he's a player swap deal with Aston Villa. Like, that's the exploit that FCC is identifying. It's once that market inefficiency is there, it's good for MLS and FCC to be exploiting this.
I also think Weston would be a great player for this league. Like, I think he really would be great in MLS. I'm not like a high level scout or anything, but my sense for him is that he's not necessarily the best player if you're a high level team that plays like rigid positions, and he's a great player if you give him a lot of like freedom to do a lot of different things. But he's probably not good enough to be given that level of freedom on like Arsenal.
Right.
But if you bring him to MLS, he will be like, I think, like a very dominant player. Like, he will do a lot of things at an elite level in MLS. So, like, I think that's an answer maybe a little bit to, like, the fit question, because it's like wherever you want to put him.
So let's move to that then, because we've had some time to digest this news a little bit, and there isn't a lot of new movement on this development, just more smoke to the idea that this is real. Bogert seems to think it's real. On Soccer Wise, he said as much. I think his line is that people that are usually very talkative have started to clam up when the topic of Weston McKennie comes up from his sources. I think that also factoring into this as well is that there was some reporting. I don't know how it was sourced. I think this was also Bogert that says that at least FC Dallas and Cincinnati they've been made aware of interest, but
Dallas has been made aware of the interest, but there's been no offer made. And what Bogert said was that Dallas has a right of first refusal on Weston because they made him a homegrown contract offer back when he signed with Schalke. Which makes this, it's kind of like discovery rights. I don't think it's exactly discovery rights, but I think there would have to be compensation that would be worked out. And I think we've said this on this show in the past, a signing of this caliber, the league intervenes to make sure that compensation is agreed to. And that they will not let FC Dallas, because FC Dallas is not going to pay $15 million. They're not going to pay Weston, whatever salary demands are. I agree. There'll be compensation, but the league is not going to let FC Dallas be the block of Weston coming to MLS.
Yeah.
So I think that where the state of play is on this, if you're not following this, and not perpetually online like some of us are, is that whereas I think when we talked about this on Sunday, that there was sort of a skepticism as to how real this was, I think I've moved at least into the camp that this is not we are making an offer to protect discovery rights, to make a bona fide offer. I've moved away from the camp that we were doing an agent a solid by bidding up somebody and trying to gin up some interest on someone. I think there's genuine interest in making this deal happen from FC Cincinnati's point of view, which is further along than I would have gone on this on Sunday based on this reporting. To the 100%. Fit argument that Grayson brought up.
Oh, wait, real quick. Before we get to fit, I just want to point out this little fun factoid. I'm pretty sure Weston McKennie would have been on the allocation order list
back in the day.
The same allocation order list that Chris Albright's antics effectively killed. And now FC Cincinnati is suddenly the first team, and I'm sure there were others, but the FC Cincinnati looks like they'll be the first team to truly benefit from a bona fide U.S. men's national team star coming back to MLS. Very funny.
And actually, what's also funny about that is that so the allocation order went away in January of 2023 was when MLS abolished it. But the team that got screwed over by that being abolished was St. Louis City. Because as an expansion team,
McKennie was not on the allocation list. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt, Chief.
Yeah.
But I did pull up the allocation list from 2022. He was not on it, so maybe it's because Dallas had that right of first refusal.
Okay.
Could be. But they did allow St. Louis FC, before they got rid of the allocation list, to pick one final allocation list player that is permanently on their discovery rights as a result. And the person they picked was Josh Sargent and not Weston McKennie. So they held Josh Sargent's rights. That's guess right on that one.
So the fit. Yeah.
The fit. I can't work this out. I still can't square this idea that you have one designated player spot that's going to be opened by the Bupenza deal. And honestly, the part of this that no one's talking about is that they really can't make their firm offer to Weston McKennie until they have a deal in place for Aaron Bupenza. Everything is contingent upon that happening. So if you're wondering where the movement is, why we aren't hearing more on this, it quite very well may be that they need to figure out the Bupenza situation before they move on to the McKennie situation. They're selling a striker to add to the midfield. I still don't see the fit. I still don't see it. It still feels like they have needs on both ends of the field, the striker room and the center backs. We've talked about not using a DP spot on a center back. It still feels really weird to me that you would be talking about bringing in a box-to-box midfielder like Weston. I'm still hung up on the fit on this. It doesn't seem like an Albright move. What this feels like is the kind of move that a team makes because they need to sell tickets and generate buzz. This would be a move that like I could see a team like Chicago doing, or a team like, I don't know, DC United, where it's a team that needs to generate some buzz. This team doesn't need to generate buzz or sell season tickets. They're got a waiting list for season tickets. They're selling out all their games. They don't need this. So I'm struggling to figure out why. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, there's a lot of, I guess, potentialities, right? Like without other information coming available, you could see various ways that Weston might just fit into the team as it's constructed. Kevin brought up the point that there's not really a backup midfielder. So like Buka immediately becomes like an elite level depth midfielder in MLS.
Sucks for him though. I mean, Christ.
Sucks for him. Yeah, sucks for him for sure. But I don't know that like signing him is like, you know, if an elite midfielder falls into your lap, like you pass that up, right? The other possibility I'm kicking around today is if they really don't sign a new DP9 or, you know, another like elite striker, just moving Lucho into where Dotto usually starts, playing Weston at the top of the midfield. Weston plays at the top of the midfield for the national team plenty, like when Musa and Adams are in the team with him. You know, I think on extra time, they suggested they suggested putting Adams or putting McKennie in the front two. I don't think that's where we see him, at least to start games. And then, I guess there's always like the formation change. You could sign a new center back in the window and play them with Miles in a back four, and play a four-man midfield. They kind of might have the personnel for that. And then as far as the DP striker situation, I don't see that happening unless they either plan to move Obi out or they have found some secret reason why Obi can be bought down from his DP status for the second half of the year, which, like, just based on what's public, I don't see how that's possible. There's no information I can find that indicates that that's possible. It feels very similar to what Columbus tried last year with Nagby.
Yeah.
And the league told them no. But I will say, if there is like a secret loophole that the league will just let you buy down a DP just because it's, near the end of their guaranteed contract or whatever, I'm going to stop worrying about roster compliance. Just going to start demanding the team add players.
I'd agree with that. The one thing that is possible here, so not with McKennie, but potentially with a striker, would be a half-season loan to purchase in the winter, depending on the timing and their actual salary and how much each side is putting in. You could, in theory, have a guy on $2.5 million wages sign at the last day of the transfer window on a loan deal. So you're only accounting for his salary for the rest of this season. It should be like kind of sort of like the Gareth Bale deal LAFC did. What was that, last year? Or the year before? It was the year before. Where you could make them a TAM player now and a DP later, and then when Obi is no longer a DP, you'd have that. But no, in terms of the fit, yeah, that's exactly what I would assume, is that Buka would move to the bench. And I mean, McKennie is the best parts of Kubo, Obi, and Buka combined. Like, he is an incredibly versatile player. He has goal scoring ability, but he is a very effective box-to-box midfielder who is positionally very, adaptive. He has played center back in his career. He's played right back in his career. He has been deployed as a striker. Go check out some of the places Schalke had him in early in his career. He played all over the field, almost to his detriment, but it makes him a very well-rounded player. I am excited
elite
at the idea.
Set piece option.
Yes, you fixed that element right there. I think he is and again, on a, if you're Real Madrid, he's not this guy. If you're FC Cincinnati, he is this guy. He is such a good talent that you bring him in and you'll build the team, you'll assort the team around him. If that's Lucho up top, great. If that's a midfield trio of McKennie, Obi, and Lucho feeding Kelsey, Kubo, and/or Dado, and/or whomever, another U22 striker up top, that's elite. You can make a bad quarterback look good with an elite line in front of him. That's what that midfield offers you. Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited about it, and I'm not worried about the fit at all. I think this would be awesome.
Man, you know who could use a player like you just described, that with all this skill? The U.S. men's national team. Yeah. Like, you're talking like this. I'm like, why does this team suck?
I mean, there may be a reason why everybody online has a Greg Berhalter in a clown suit profile picture, but it's
very odd to me. We would have 3 designated players as midfielders. That can't be that common in MLS, can it?
I don't know. I feel like it's been done before. You rarely see a DP center back, although they do happen. Walker Zimmerman being the obvious example.
Montreal had one for a while too, I want to say.
Yeah. DP goalkeepers are always a disaster. I mean, St. Louis is fine, but now I bet they're regretting it. Yeah, it basically has to be a midfielder or attacker. And Lucho is just a generalized forward midfielder. McKennie could be that as well. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
I think it'd work out well.
So where are we on this in terms of, do we think this is happening? Do we not think this is happening?
I'll go ahead and say I think it's happening. I don't think we'd get to this point with this rumor if it wasn't probably going to happen.
I don't think it happens. I think I agree with everything Chief said, though. Like, I think that they have been preparing a situation to make it happen, right? Like getting the transfer offer out there, getting the salary number out there, putting Dallas on notice that they're gonna potentially want to get his rights. And I think that I think it's a realistic option for Weston. I still think he's going to find. I still think he's going to find a situation in Europe that works for him.
Because to be clear, Juventus does not want him back.
That's what the reporting was today. Yeah, but they also gave away his locker last year, and then he ended up like the fourth highest minutes earner on the team this year.
Yeah, but I think the difference is that this year is his walk year for a contract. So in terms of getting something for him or getting something back for him, if they don't find the deal either this window or next window, they're letting him go for nothing. And if you've got an American team offering $15 million, even for a club like Juventus, that's good money. That's spent.
Well, the interesting thing with that is, as folks know, you can't just trade players in Europe.
Right.
You have to reach agreement between the teams and between the new team and the player. So, Juventus has a say, obviously, in where he goes, based on what compensation they can get back for him, and putting that $15 million on the table. Yeah, I think it makes things very real for Juve. And then I read, I don't know if this is true, but there was a point in time where Weston was potentially going to be included in a player swap deal between Juve and Aston Villa.
Yeah.
And what I read was that Weston and Villa could not come to personal terms.
Yeah.
Which very interesting, because Villa is, they're what'd they qualify for this year? Champions League, Europa League?
They're in the
Premier League. They were
near
European
competitions.
Yeah, they were near the top.
I think they're in Champions League though, right?
I think so too.
Yeah, they're top four.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you can't come to personal terms with Villa on salary, who can you come to terms with?
Right. The only ones you could don't want you. That's where you're at.
Well, how many realistic European destinations for Weston
right
are going to be offering as much money as Villa?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you look at it's not dissimilar to the Miles Robinson situation. It's a different scale, but it's Miles could have signed for FC Cincinnati for $1.5 million, or he could have signed for, I don't know, PSV or whatever for $600,000 maybe.
Right.
Weston could go play on a Premier League team for $1, $2, $3 million, or he can play with FC Cincinnati for
5, 7,
6, 7, 8 plus. I don't think there's been anything on about the salary, but like,
and that doesn't bother anyone that like, or doesn't change anyone's opinion that like we're paying so much more for a player like McKennie than he's worth.
We're
on his
paying
open
more
market.
for Lucho than he would get in Europe.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me.
It doesn't bother me because that's what it would cost to get a player of his caliber to MLS. It's the same thing with the Brenner deal. It's like, did FC Cincinnati, quote unquote, overpay for Brenner? Yeah, if FC Cincinnati was Ajax, they probably could have got him for $7 million, but in order to, for less salary, but in order to convince this young player to move to MLS and not a European team, you're going to have to pay a premium. And you're going to have to keep paying those premiums until MLS has a lot more players like McKennie in it. It's sort of a disadvantage to be the first mover in this situation. Just to further explain Grayson's point there, just because it's so different than how American sports work. Transfer fees, one club pays another club a transfer fee, which is basically a fee to have that team break their contract with the player. So the contract that the player is on is then scrapped and they sign a brand new contract, generally speaking, with the new buying team. So that is why you need to have both the club, assuming they still have a contract, and the player to agree to those terms. Unlike in the NFL, where your rights are owned by a team and you can have your rights moved around, in the middle of a game if the right deal shows up. It just doesn't happen like that in Europe. So, yeah, it sounds like Aston Villa wanted Weston McKennie. It sounds like Juve was happy to get rid of him, but he couldn't agree to a new contract with Aston Villa that had agreeable terms. And this is where you end up in these situations where a team like Juventus very publicly wants to get rid of this player, but can't because the player is not agreeing to other terms. So there we are.
I think I can't decide. It doesn't make any sense. And the fact that it doesn't make any sense to me means that I think it's probably going to happen. Just that, like, this rumor is so out of pocket. It came out of left field. It's real. He doesn't have a position to play. I do feel bad for Pavel if he ends up going to the bench because he's played really well and has been, by all accounts, a great signing. But somehow that lends credibility to everything that's happening right now because it just doesn't make any sense.
Can I make a final prediction?
Yes,
because there's one thing that I do feel confident about with the Weston McKennie situation.
Yes.
It's if they do sign him this summer, it will not be the only major signing the team makes this summer.
Can we build the big name signing in aggregate, Moneyball style? Does Weston McKennie plus DP striker on loan for half a season buy him next year? Does that get your juices going, Chief? Would you accept that?
What if they get McKennie and Dybala?
Yeah, I would say for the sake of a name, Dybala on loan for the rest of this year, and we sign him for next year.
I just don't. That's the other problem with this too.
You don't know who Dybala is.
No, I know who Dybala is. No,
okay.
No, I know who Dybala is. No, it's just that, like, I am trying to wrap my brain, and it's part of the problem with this league is I am trying to wrap my brain around how the fuck all this works. They have Luca Orishano, who will be on a DP deal if they pick up his option next year. They have Kevin Kelsey, who I think will still be on a U22, but is on a $7 million option for next year. Yes. You're talking about paying $15 million for Weston McKennie and signing him to a $5 million deal. You just gave Lucho $5 million. You're talking about bringing in another signing. Like, I don't understand how all these people are getting paid. Like, it just seems
in US dollars.
Yes, in US dollars. And UDF gift cards.
You said this team has no ambition.
Alvaro Barreal comes back. Marco Angulo comes back.
They have no ambition. I have no idea how they're doing all the things that they're doing.
No, it's like they're doing all this. It's the stupid MLS salary rules. It's not the fact they're spending this money. It's that I don't understand. Like,
well, Kelsey's the least. Kelsey and Lucho are like the least mysterious of them all.
Right, but like Orishano's going to be a DP next year if they pick his option up. Like,
yeah, unless they negotiate it down.
Right,
they're going to have to.
But I'll be honest. It's very possible they just say we can't pick up the option,
which is wild to me. Like, that's wild.
Yeah, because he's so good.
Yeah,
he's going to be an all-star.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Hey, actually, let's move on over to part 2 with the touch of an all-star there. Let's go to part 2. This has been a lot of McKennie talk, which is great and is honestly the most exciting thing around this club right now.
Yeah, the rest of it's bummers right now.
Yeah, part 2, let's talk about some sad stuff. And then part 3, we've got a match preview to get to. So let's go do that. Before we get to the next part of the episode, I do want to tell you about our sponsor, Cincy Shirts, which is now the home of official Cincy Postcast merch. This is so exciting, and we really never thought we'd see the day, and yet here we are, alive and actually seeing the day. Cincy Shirts has been with FC Cincinnati from the beginning. They've been with the Post for ever now, from the beginning. Our very first sponsor. So happy to have them along for this journey. There are 6, count them, 6 different shirts available at this time of recording that you can purchase from their website for real life. This is, again, a real thing that you can do. As I'm sure you know, but I will remind you, they have 3 retail locations, including Fort Mitchell, Loveland, and Oakley Hyde Park, where in those locations, they can print on demand. If they don't have the size of something you want, you can print on demand. I assume this means postcast shirts as well. Give it a shot. Let me know how that goes. If, for some reason, you do not want to purchase one of our shirts, I won't hold it against you. You can use promo code ThePostCincy. That's all one word, all caps, ThePostCincy for 10% off your next order. This also works with Postcast shirts, so please don't pay full price. Make sure you knock 10% off for yourself on that one. Spread the code far and wide, I guess, and let them know about Cincy shirts and let them know about the podcast while you're at it. Otherwise, the code doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But again, a huge thank you to Cincy Shirts for sponsoring this episode and so many before it. And if I do see you out there with a t-shirt, I will be embarrassed for you, but I will probably give you a high five and tell you well done. So again, thank you to Cincy Shirts. Thank you to you for buying shirts and using that promo code. All right, part 2. We've got a bit of a grab bag. Grayson, you mentioned it. I don't have it on the rundown here, but according to the Post's Joseph Mame, we have reason to believe that FC Cincinnati has an all-star, could be sending as many as 3 players to the all-star game. Not a whole lot here other than the other thing I'll mention. This was going around the internet today. Columbus, they printed out some posters for the All-Star game. They look good. They've got a bunch of MLS stars on the front of it, a sort of yellow and black dual tone image of the stadium behind the stars. The problem is the All-Star game is in Columbus this year. The stadium they used for the picture, TQL Stadium.
Very clearly, too. Like,
it says TQL Stadium in the graphic.
Yeah, it says TQL Stadium in the graphic. And unlike Columbus, we were, architecturally inclined enough to fill in our corners. So your stadium could never.
It looked visually better, and full crowd always looks good.
Yeah. No, I love it.
I think that, if we're wrong, we're wrong. But I think we have reason to believe that there's 3 All-Stars. I mean, Lucho's at the very front of that advertisement.
It would be really awkward if he doesn't make it now.
The reigning MVP not being an all-star while healthy and leading the league in assists would be a
having
wild
a
move.
better year this year than he did last year.
And, you can bleep this out. But I think let's predict that Miles and Luka will also be all-stars.
Wait, is the All-Star game during the Olympics? When does this happen?
It actually is. I looked it up. It's July 24th. So you can be selected for the All-Star team, but not go to the All-Star game.
How infuriated would you be if he flew back just for the All-Star game? To make his contractually obligated appearance.
Or maybe we need him to be an all-star so that he has extra motivation to turn down the Olympic call-up.
Oh, I love the way you're thinking here. Do you really want to miss all the revelry and fun of an all-star weekend in Columbus, Ohio?
Versus an all-expense-paid tour to play soccer around France.
Sleep on a cardboard bed? No, fuck that.
While you still have aspirations of playing in Europe? Yeah, no. This doesn't.
We're an all-star podcast, baby.
Always love the all-star game. So that is fun. I'd agree with Grayson. I think we'll get those predictions. Speaking of FCC All-Stars, no, I don't know how to transition this, but there's a better transition, but I'm just going to blow past it. Frankie Amaya thanked the fans. Not FC Cincinnati fans, to be clear.
But not FC Cincinnati fans.
That's true.
He just said the fans.
You had a compelling argument about this. His Instagram post went out today thanking the fans. It is official. He is being transferred from New York Red Bulls to Toluca in Liga MX. I'll read it here. He does say, though, Grayson, he does start it off with New York. I will forever be grateful for the fans, my teammates, staff, coaches, lifelong friends, the memories I made.
Lifelong friends? The lifelong friends are not in New York.
No, by definition, they're not in New York. He's from California.
That's true. They're not in Ohio either. And every time I got to play at Red Bull Arena.
Which he played
every
at FC
time
Cincinnati.
he got to,
Yeah. Do you think when he said that he was also thinking about when they lost in the playoffs at Red Bull Arena 2 straight years?
I'm thankful for those times.
I'm thankful.
I think you like those.
Yeah.
New York, I really like this. New York will always have a special place in my heart, and I feel very lucky to have been a part of this historical club. So
they have existed in history historically.
Factually.
They are a team that is more in the past than in the future.
There is evidence for the historical Red Bull.
Yes.
Do you think Frankie has seen Stereophonic yet?
No, I think that one got past him.
All right.
What's on his radar?
Just wondering what he might think about it.
A Santa Ana kid got to live out a New York dream. That was definitely not his dream. No. Thank you, New York Red Bulls, for the opportunity. I'll cherish it forever.
I'm glad you got to spend some time in New York.
Yeah.
Why were they lifting him up like he was Rudy from the end of the movie?
I don't know what that moment was.
What was the circumstances for this?
Hey, Bing AI, please generate an image of New York Red Bulls players lifting Frankie Amaya.
New York is red. Well, he played in New Jersey, so he should have started that off with New Jersey. Sorry for the geography lesson, Franuel. People forget he's not really named Frank.
In case people, because I did see folks on the Crew subreddit, not that I go there, I was sent this. I think it was the Crew subreddit, it might have been the MLS subreddit. We're asking, will the post-Cincy maintain the clock? The official position is, yes, we will maintain the clock. The main reason being, I don't exactly remember how to turn it off.
But our position is that he has thanked the fans.
He has thanked the fans.
So if we were going to transition the clock to something else that we need to keep track of, what would be the next thing that like is of note that we're keeping track of?
Two jump to mind. Days since the Miazga tape has not been released would be fun.
Well, like that.
I would also throw the karaoke tape in there as well, but I feel like that's a deeper cut.
We are the podcast and the website of the deep cut. Many
It's
people
true.
are saying.
It is the brand.
I would say days since a Crew fan wet himself in the mentions of an FC Cincinnati tweet, but you have to reset it every day.
Yeah. Well, then
What about days since a journalist was suspended by FC Cincinnati? Standing in solidarity with our media brethren.
or sisterin. Not that brethren doesn't imply
The
women.
Brotherhood of Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
people.
The Brotherhood of Man certainly screams all genders.
Look. Anybody can be a brother. I mean, this is Pride Month.
I think. Never mind. I won't get us
I
canceled.
mean, honestly, you could just leave it running and just say, days since the post since he has made a decent point.
That's good. Days the post since he has kept a grudge, and just leave it vague, but it's the same number.
So he's going to Toluca. Where are they on the Leagues Cup bracket? And is there a possibility he could play in TQL Stadium again, and we could bring back the "fuck you, Frankie" chants?
God, that is so good. All right, looking at the groups, Toluca is in very quickly. West 4.
Ah, the classic group of death, West 4.
Who doesn't know West 4? With Sporting
Chicago
Kansas
and
City,
Sporting KC. So they're the favorites in that group.
the group of
Well, it's
life,
definitely-
as it
no,
were.
It's the group of death, because being a fan of either one of those teams would make me want to kill myself. So.
What's our group? We're E1.
We are E1.
Okay,
I
so
can't find a bracket on the website, which is embarrassing.
Great.
I found,
great tournament.
I found a bracket.
Okay,
Okay,
good.
hit me.
If Toluca is first, we could not play them until the final or the third place game.
Okay.
Can you imagine
Okay.
how electric a final with Toluca visiting TQL Stadium?
Yeah,
Fuck you,
but we would host either of those.
Yeah.
by the way.
Good.
If they finish second, they play Columbus Crew in the first knockout game.
Who are you rooting for?
Toluca. And depending on whether we're first or second in our group,
Yeah.
we would see them potentially in either the quarterfinal if we're second in the group, or the semifinal if we are first in our group.
I'm glad they made this easy to follow.
So we would have to, in other words, like we would have to both advance pretty far into the tournament to host Frankie.
And as we
But I
said,
hope it happens.
We're punting the Leagues Cup. We're a punt
True.
the Leagues Cup podcast.
We might
are.
not get out of the group.
Would Weston be here by Leagues Cup?
No.
Yes. No.
It's the most postcast moment ever. Yes, no.
He could be here by then.
You know how Weston could
Legally,
win me
he
over?
could be.
If Weston could win me over, if as the "fuck you, Frankie" chants are going, he's like fist pumping along with the crowd, like keep it going, keep it up. That would be the moment he truly becomes president.
Weston's a shithouser.
Yeah. Weston
Like
would
he's like
be
not
this-
in like a cheap way, but like Weston is always up for it, I would say.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you ever heard podcasts or interviews about hockey players about how they decide they want to fight. When you say up for it, like two guys in the ice, you want to go, you want to go, you want to have a go, you want a shot at the belt, you up for it. Like it's the most Canadian shit ever. How they pick fights on a hockey rink.
Oh, I love it. Well, this was the transition that would have been a lot better out of Miles Robinson, the All-Star.
Well, let's talk about why we're punting Leagues Cup.
You
Yeah. Well,
Well,
Matt Miazga officially announced by the club season-ending injury designation for the center back. His PCL and meniscus had successful surgery, which is great. Successful reconstructive surgery, should point out. That designation does mean he is no longer eligible to play for the rest of this season. In the tweet sending this out, they said he will be joining the team in preseason of 2025, which is at least 4 to 8 days after the end of this season. So he'll be back pretty quickly.
Before we go, I just have like one like kind of stupid question.
Yeah, please.
I feel like at one point it was like told it was like exploratory surgery.
well, like discovering
now,
if he actually had a knee or not.
And now we found out that it was a successful surgery that requires him to miss the rest of the year. What was stopping them from using the season-ending injury pre-surgery? Would an unsuccessful surgery have brought him back?
No, I don't think it was that. I think that, I mean, getting into it, I honestly think it was Nick Hagglund breaking his leg.
Okay.
Is that like that all of us? We talked about this a little bit on Sunday, but that sort of is a domino of we absolutely need to go and get another transfer lined up for a center back, and we no longer have the luxury of waiting to see if Matt can make a speedy enough recovery and we advance far enough into the playoffs where he could play in November and December. Because I think, you know, this type of surgery, you're on a 4 to 6 month recovery timeline for the most part. So you think to yourself, if you're on a 4 to 6 month recovery, maybe you're back in late October, mid-November, if everything goes really, really well. But once you lose 2 center backs in the span of a week, then all of a sudden the imperative becomes we got to get somebody in here, and his money becomes the most valuable thing about him. And whereas before maybe you could talk yourself into just like, well, we'll wait and see. Now it's let's just rip the Band-Aid off, as it were, and use his resources to bring somebody in that can help us for the rest of the year, I think. I think that was what changed fundamentally why the SEI tag was applied to him.
I also wonder if they weren't working a deal for a center back and didn't want to announce the designation until the deal was done, because it would sort of tip their hand in negotiations as to how much money was available.
Did you think the other team didn't know that he was hurt?
Not that he wasn't hurt, but if suddenly there's an extra $500,000.
I understand. But like, if I'm another team, and I'm FC Cincinnati, like let's say I'm like New England Revolution, just to pick a team at random,
and all of a sudden,
suddenly I get a call from FC Cincinnati for like Andrew Farrell, and I look at their depth chart and I'm like, oh, they got like Miazga, Robinson. They got five center backs.
So what's going on with Miazga? Oh, it's just a deep laceration, but it's, you know, it's going to be a couple weeks. We could
We're
probably
just looking for like a glue guy for the locker room.
It could ideally start, you know, rest of season.
Can I interest you in a brand new, slightly used Matt Hedges?
You know, I honestly, like I know I'm not just saying this because Andrew Wiebe threw his name out twice on Twitter.
Right.
If you could get a reasonable deal for him, it's like you're picking up half a season of salary. He's an experienced player in the league, and his deal is up at the end of the year.
He's the dream candidate.
He's not an ideal like center back signing by any means.
Right.
But he's kind of the perfect like stopgap replacement player. Don't tie your hands in the future signing.
And we know they wanted him before. So they like something about him.
So to that end, do we have a clarification as to, do we get access to the GAM from the Frankie Amaya deal immediately? Is that money even transferable to GAM? I know that there was some, Grayson, I saw you tagged in some conversations with Laurel on this, because the deal to Toluca was $3.5 million plus add-ons, which I'm not a math whiz, but you're talking about like what? Like $500,000 worth of GAM?
It's 525.
Right.
Would be minus. So I think we get like 95%.
Wait, do you have to pay capital gains taxes on this too in the league?
So I think we get 95% of that. I don't know if that's true, but just looking at the roster rules, that's like the natural.
So where does the other 5% go?
To
the
Major League Soccer.
Oh, this is crap.
Mm-hmm.
They give us the GAM. This is
the way that the rules are written, I do think that it.
This is a postcast. We're going to talk rules.
The way that the rules are written, I do think the most natural reading of them is that sign-on is convertible to GAM until you've like hit whatever your GAM max is.
Is there a limit on the amount of GAM you can hold?
Well, that's one of the. No, there's a limit on how much GAM you can convert from a transfer.
God,
so
I thought there was like
have we already hit that because of Brandon Vasquez this year?
But so that's one of the one of the potential rule changes is like an aggregate limit. But currently the way it's written is it's like a per transfer limit. And we have not gotten any money from a Frankie Amaya transfer. So like there's no reason to think that we would have hit the GAM conversion limit as to Frankie Amaya. And there's an article from Tom Bogert from less than 2 years ago, about a year and a half ago. It was late. It was like December 2022.
Okay.
Where he said a league source confirmed to him that sell-on fees are convertible to GAM.
Nice.
So until Venezuela just scored a goal in Mexico, by the way.
Nice.
Oh, I like that.
Love that for us.
Love that for us, really.
Yeah, just us.
Yeah.
Nobody else.
So I know somebody posted the question today, and I'll say like for me, all I can do is like look at the CBA, look at the roster rules, and say like what they say or what they don't say. If the rules are different from that, I'll throw my hands up. Like I'm just gonna throw my hands up, right?
Right.
But Laurel, who does have access, does have the ability to talk to people who have access to whatever MOS's secret different rule book is for all this stuff. She's able to ask those questions. She said that, and I didn't really understand. And this, look, I just didn't understand what her tweet was referring to. But she said that she had asked Chris Albright the question about a different deal, and he said that it wasn't.
It was not convertible.
That in that specific instance, the selling could not be converted to GAM. And I can't for the life of me think about what other deal we got a sell on for.
No, we've never. Yeah, no.
I can't think of a single time we've gotten a sell on.
Oh, this is the first time we have sold a young player that's actually moved on someplace else. Most of the time we sell young players and they're dead end players.
Yeah. So for Brenner, I believe the rule at the time for DPs was that you can't convert DP sales to GAM.
Right.
Which has changed for restricted DPs, which Brenner wasn't. So that doesn't matter anyway. So I can't think of anyway. Regardless,
Viacia. Didn't we have a sell-on fee in Viacia?
Did anybody sell him? Anywhere?
Didn't he move to Colorado for GAM?
We transferred him.
Then he was
to
transferred
Colorado for GAM.
Then he was transferred to Columbus.
They loaned him to Columbus.
I thought they bought him.
But if they bought him, it was for GAM. There's no league transfer fee.
Is there a sell-on fee for GAM? I don't know how the contracts can be written.
I guess I don't know how that works because there's no like interleague transfer. There's no intra-league transfer market.
Yeah, he's the only guy I can think of that we transferred.
I think he moved back to Ecuador on a free.
Yeah.
And if I can't imagine like some team from Ecuador even if they paid a transfer fee, it was like anything meaningful.
It
shouldn't, like $100.
Yeah, shouldn't have risen to the level of paying a fee on top of that does.
What's wild about all this is that like nobody knows any of this shit. Like here, just while we're talking right here, Andrew Wiebe on Twitter. Awful for Miazga and extremely challenging for Cincinnati. The SEI at least opens a senior roster spot. Big summer for Chris Albright and Pat Noonan.
But he's right though that right now all the SEI does is open a senior roster spot.
No, but then he goes on to add, here's what FC Cincinnati's front office is working with Matt Miazga on the season-ending injury list. They've got a senior roster spot to play with, plus a good amount of salary budget. Miazga is on $1.525 million per the MLSPA. Like, this gets back into that question of his salary budget charge is only $680,000. The rest of it is bought down by TAM.
Yeah.
I just tweeted, I was like, well, did they get the TAM back? I don't know that, like, there's an answer to this in the rules.
We brought that up, and like, I'm looking at the same thing that Andrew Wiebe is looking at, right? Like, the screenshot he tweeted is the same thing that we can all look at. It says salary budget charge. But the maximum salary budget charge is like $683,000.
Right. It's a percentage.
So when that says salary budget charge right there, does it mean Miazga's salary budget charge against the salary budget? Or does it mean like
his total
salary budget charge before you apply TAM or GAM to buy it down to the maximum salary budget charge?
And then
is not answered in the rule. You would have to ask somebody like Chris Albright that question. And you cannot find the answer to that question.
He might not even know the answer. Like,
the most annoying interpretation though is you're allowed to spend the TAM back to that level, but you have to use different TAM. So like
that's right. Yeah. That is an annoying answer to the question. But it's also what I fear the answer to the question is.
But the problem is why this is important. It's not like minutia though, because this genuinely matters as to the caliber of player they can bring in 100%. To replace Miazga.
Here's the other thing, right? Sorry to interrupt, Chief, but with salary budget charge, and I'm talking specifically to Ken Hetker on this. So you don't necessarily just buy the player's budget charge down to the maximum salary budget charge. You might use more GAM or TAM to get that player to a lower salary budget charge because that like makes sense on your spreadsheet. Right. So when you send the roster compliance sheet to MLS on roster compliance date, and if they use a bunch of GAM and TAM, or they use a bunch of TAM, just to quote unquote simplify, and let's say that on the sheet they submitted to MLS, Miazga's roster or budget salary charge is $400,000. Because they use some extra TAM to buy it down. But
they can't because you're limited to $1 million in TAM, right? That's the whole point of the max TAM. But
that's true. That's true. Yeah,
but you're right for other players. Yeah,
that's true. That's true. Again, that's good. See,
like this is
you need like an army of people to figure this out.
Look how it's look. So anyway, but still, I think the Chiefs' question of like, whether they have the 683 or they get the TAM back.
Right.
That matters. That matters a great deal.
That's the difference between getting a starter off of another team and getting a backup off of another team.
That's the other thing is, okay, the season-ending injury gives you the salary budget, the budget relief. Okay. But that doesn't mean that you can get another player who makes $1.5 million.
Right.
Right? Because
it's prorated.
Well, sure. But let's forget about that for a second. There are like most of those really good players are under contract somewhere. So like who's available without paying a transfer fee, which is going to be applied to the salary budget charge, or if it's intra-league, which feels like probably the most likely place. If it's intra-league, you can make a trade, which means you have to find like either a player some team wants, or you have to have some GAM to throw at it.
Which I can identify a source of $500,000.
Maybe we just got $500,000. Yeah. Maybe we did just get $500,000 for Frankie and Maya, and we can just throw that over to Austin for the rest of Matt Hedges' year. Although that feels like it would be an overpay, but like, I don't know how to value this stuff really.
But it's not an overpay. That's like, this is girl math. We didn't have this $500,000 in GAM before the Frankie sale. I had written off ever making money on the Frankie sale. This is found money. This is money in your coat pocket. This is not even real.
The Frankie sale is our Kamar Lawrence trade.
I don't even think this money is real. Like, this is just found money. Yeah, you can have all $500,000 of it, $500,000 of it. Whatever. Just get us a center back. Fucking go nuts.
But the point is, my point though was that like, you have to figure out some mechanism to acquire this player, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to cost something that you're not getting budget relief for, unless that player's on a free.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on what their budget charge is. If
it's 1.5.
Hey, look at that. Andrew Wiebe, man of the people. You're right. I wrote that wrong, deleted it, and rewrite it to avoid confusion.
What's the rule?
It says they've got a senior roster spot. This is the retweet. Below our parameters, yada yada. They've got a senior roster spot to play with. Plus, you assume a modest, decent amount of salary budget. Miazga is on 1.525 for the MLSPA, with allocation bringing down the charge.
That feels like that means we don't get to use get the allocation back.
Yeah, that feels like that we were right on that.
We don't get it back.
You were right on that.
I said that last episode.
Yeah.
We don't get it back, but that's not to say...
You were right. I confirmed it, which makes me journalistically correct as well.
Dude, don't say we don't do anything for you. we do the work.
Yeah. And by the work, I mean we're tweeting at people while we're recording the podcast and hope to get like news and information.
Oh man. I'm glad you did that. I'm really glad you did that, because
this league, man. This
So to sum up all the time we just wasted.
Yes.
It sounds like, as far as using the season-ending injury, we just get whatever's left of like Miazga's salary budget charge.
But you know where
do the replacement player.
But you know where his salary budget charge may actually be useful, which may actually be the solution to this. Is that
U22?
U22, exactly. Is that a U22 hits the salary budget at around $200,000 dollars tops. So if Miazga's salary budget charge number was at 680,000, and we have access now to 2 more U22 spots, that alone
you can only use it. You can only use it on one player.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
But even still, like, okay.
But even still, like, that's the cheat. Yeah. Like I brought up like the acquisition cost of the player. If it's a U22,
there's no acquisition cost.
There's no acquisition cost that hits the budget.
Pay $10 million for this.
It's just ownership money. Whatever they want to spend, he comes on as a $200,000 budget hit, and that is washed away by the SEI.
You want to be ambitious? Set the transfer record with a U22.
Do you? This could solve all of our problems in a way. Do you think like Montreal would trade for Bupenza? Like, do you think Bupenza would have any value in MLS, assuming we get some sort of hefty sell-on fee?
I'll say this: if they're,
did you just say that just because they speak French there?
Montreal feels like the only team that would go for it, where they could sell it to their fans as this is an ambitious move.
I think I assume that ownership's preference is to get cash money at a loss.
Sure.
For Bupenza, but trading him in the league, if anybody would take him, is the most cap friendly way to move him, because you get money that you can use on the roster spend.
Yeah.
Plus freeing up the DP spot.
Or potentially a player swap. I'm not super familiar with their roster, but surely a starting center back or
we'd
somebody
have to, right. Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could
but
be.
that would be the most, because you'd get back something that you can use on the roster, and then you can use ownership money, which to me is not real money,
right?
On the replacement designated player.
If you sell a player at a loss, can you take a tax write-off on a player?
I assume so.
Nice.
I was also thinking this too. In the world of NFTs, are GAM and TAM like assets that they also need to pay taxes on? That they're tokens.
Fungible.
Yeah, but are they?
Yeah.
Have you ever held a GAM in your hand?
I'm just saying, I've never held an NFT, but people got to pay taxes on their assets.
This is how senior citizens get scammed. Conversations like this. This ends with someone driving to a Bitcoin ATM to pay the bond for their grandson in prison.
I do want to say, I've always felt very lucky that Matt Miazga was on our team.
100%. This sucks.
We're gonna get real now.
Yeah.
It really sucks that his season's over, and it's a shame that it ended the way it did. And I just hope, that, it's, for Matt, he's got a contract, at least for next year.
Yeah.
So he's got a little bit of security. But the most important thing is that he's able to come back, next season and continue his career.
Yeah.
We're going to need him in Champions League next year early.
Yeah.
So hoping for the best.
That's a really good point. I don't want to get lost in all the budget stuff, is that this sucks for Matt. It's funny.
It's not funny, Chief.
No, it's not funny. No, I mean, it's funny. Just you think about this, that Matt Miazga was kind of the last piece of the puzzle that brought FC Cincinnati from where they were to kind of the run they've been on to this point. That he was the guy that they got in 2022 that solidified the back line. Between him and Obi in that summer, that's where this version of FC Cincinnati launched. And he was the big acquisition, I think, that was the final piece to the puzzle that made this a winning playoff team. And it was really cool when he signed here. He's been nothing but cool to watch as a player. I love the attitude that he brings to this team. I love the fact that he's a bit of a shithead. I think this team needs a little bit of that. I think it helps this team's attitude to have a little bit of that. And it's just a huge loss. He's another one of those players. So when we lost Brandon Vasquez at the start of the year, the talk was always he plays at a much higher level than his salary slot. And I think that's true for Matt Miazga too. He's a max TAM player that is providing DP level value to this team. And we talk about you don't want to use a DP on a center back. Having a player like Matt Miazga is the reason why you don't want to do that, because you can get that level of production from a high max TAM player if you find the right one. The trick is finding the right one. And we did. And I feel bad for Matt. But what I will say is that I think that if you were going to ask Matt, how would you want to pick up an injury like this? A balls out, I'm going back to defend, and just shit happens. This was a going out like a warrior type injury, and I love that for him.
And it's not just Matt's play on the field either. Matt is a star in the league.
Yeah.
He's a great personality. He's somebody who draws attention to the team in the league. And when he goes out, he gives a lot of interviews. He gets a lot of media stuff. I think it just reflects well on the organization to have him involved. So, my sincere hope is that he has a good recovery. He's able to spend some time focusing on his recovery and focusing on time with his family, and he comes back next year and just continues to boss the league.
Yeah.
He's another one of those guys I'd like to see play here beyond this contract. And I hope that he makes his recovery and that he does play here for a number of years. But he's not listening. He'll never hear this. But if somebody gets word to him, speedy recovery, and this sucks, we can't wait to see you next year.
Yeah. No, I want him beyond his FCC contract. I think he's a first ballot TST member when that time comes. I think he will dominate that tournament.
Ironically, what I think he would be great at, not ironically, like just full on, I think he would be a fantastic women's soccer coach. I think there's just a vibe there of we're going to teach everyone just to be a little violent, just to be a little bit of a shithead, and bring a little attitude to whatever it is we're doing. I don't know. It's just, there's a vibe there that I think that.
I mean, even if not a women's coach, put him with Manu Ledesma on the academy coaching
Academy
staff.
would be another great. Yeah, just, I feel like wherever it is, he needs to pass. He's like a shithead Jedi. Like, he needs to pass on what he's learned to the next generation.
He definitely has like secrets of the trade to share.
Yes.
Yeah. Also, I love a guy like him and Ledesma that have played everywhere. Like, I love that guy with a coaching background that has played everywhere. He's seen what is effective and not effective, and I think that's super cool. Just very quickly, Weston McKennie announced the U.S. men's national team will be playing in Cincy. That was hilarious. Whoever figured that out to do that, very funny.
Yeah.
Playing Panama.
New Zealand.
New Zealand, which is
New Zealand.
We're playing Panama as the warm up for the debate tomorrow.
New Zealand's worse, but New Zealand does have 2 NKU players on their roster. Not necessarily that game's roster, but their current roster has 2 former NKU players.
So I asked this on the Discord and got no traction, so now I will force you to answer it here. Would you rather play New Zealand against the U.S. men's national team, or would you rather the U.S. men's national team play a really good Central American team like Saprissa or Alajuelense or one of those? What do you think offers a better Alajuelense? What do you think offers a better challenge to the men's national team?
I think, honestly, I think like a Saprissa.
Yeah.
Because they have that club cohesion.
That's what I'm thinking.
And there are national teams that will occasionally play, usually like under 23 national teams.
Right.
Will play friendlies with clubs.
El Salvador did it with Messi's Miami earlier.
It's not a terrible idea.
I think
it's a problem with like lining up a window, right?
Right.
That, and also I don't think any national team ever wants to lose to a club team. I think losing to New Zealand would be a really embarrassing look.
So I was a big supporter. Remember when like the US like lost the Olympic basketball, they like finished like 5th or something in Olympic basketball. Some people floated that like they just send the Detroit Pistons, who were like the NBA champions at the time, and just replace like, I think they had 1 international player. I think it was Mamedo Kerr. And they said like, just put Tim Duncan in there instead of Mamedo Kerr,
right?
But send like the team that like knows how to play together and whatever. There's a lot to it. And you see like,
dude, that Pistons team was fucking fierce too. There was Larry Brown was their head coach, who was also an Olympic coach.
Could you imagine that Pistons team playing against like France?
Yeah, it was Chauncey Billups, Tayshaun Prince,
Rip Hamilton,
Ben Wallace, and Rasheed Wallace. Yeah,
Lordy.
Yeah. Can you imagine Rasheed Wallace learning how to say "ball don't lie" in all these different languages?
Or even the best college team, like the national champion that year, would do well too. Yeah,
yeah. I think that is true. But other countries, not like, I guess like kind of on purpose, but there's been like years where like Germany's national team is like basically Bayern.
Right.
With like, like the core is like Bayern Munich players. Then you have like other teams like filling them out. And like Spain, it's like half Madrid, half Barcelona, basically, with a couple of other guys. Italy with like primarily like Juve players like back in the day. So not today.
Can I just time out right here for a second?
Yep.
This is one of my, you touched on one of my favorite topics, and that is the 2003-2004 Detroit Pistons. This is like my favorite basketball team in my lifetime. I'm just going to read you. They went on a winning streak in the middle of their season. I'm going to read you the final scores from these games and tell me if anything stands out to you about this team's winning streak. They beat this is March 4th, 2004, starting with against the Portland Trail Blazers. They start this winning streak with an 83-68 win. They then beat the Nuggets 97-66. The Sonics 86-65, the Bulls 98-65, the Sixers 85-69. They're playing college basketball games in the NBA with the defense they're playing.
So I was just talking to my buddy at lunch today, specifically about this Pistons team.
All right, go off.
Because we were talking about like. So I guess, we were just talking about like the how like today in the NBA, like if you're only like 6'8", you have to have like a perimeter game.
Right.
And like what would like Ben Wallace do in the NBA today?
He was like the most elite defender and rebounder of all time. Like he was 6'8", but his afro made him like about 6'10". And the man was just a menace in the paint.
And like that Pistons team, with how the game is played today and how the game is like called today, they don't make the playoffs.
They might not win 10 games with the way the league's officiated right now. But in the moment right there, that team was so much fun. They were infuriating to watch, I'll bet, if you were a fan of any other team.
And Tayshaun Prince, like, he had a short, like, I don't know, prime or whatever. But, like, for that very brief stretch where he was with Detroit and they were very good, it was like he at times felt like the best player in the world.
Yeah. He had
he held Kobe to like 15 points.
Yeah. Elite defense, good scoring around the court. He felt like a prototypical San Antonio Spurs player where you can't point to one thing he does incredibly well, but then you blink and he's like got 25, 7, and 7, and his man hasn't scored a bucket since the media timeout in the first half. Like that team was so cool. And like Rasheed Wallace remains one of the ultimate best shit heel athletes of all time. He was a soccer player playing basketball.
Yeah. Rasheed Wallace could play today.
Yeah. Rasheed Wallace is definitely like, if America's best athletes played soccer, he had the attitude of a soccer striker. Like he
was pretty tall.
He was, but in spirit, that man was perpetually angry. And he would have so fit in like, and just slightly unhinged, but always in a just tremendously shithead way. I love Rasheed Wallace. Ball don't lie.
And
my wife hates it when I say it at games. It's my philosophy of sports.
And in the time, them beating the Lakers in the NBA Finals.
Hilarious.
So good.
Hilarious.
So good.
They whomped him too. It was a 4-1 series. They held him to 60. They won game 3, 88-68. Like, you imagine
how many points does Shaq have that game?
I gotta look it up. But just can you imagine a modern basketball game in a finals where a team is held to 68 points? Shaq had was 7 of 14 for. Why is it so hard to find how many points he had here?
He had
He had 14 points.
Wow. Okay.
I was gonna say, I don't think he made very many free throws.
He did not make any free throws. No,
I feel like he had like a pretty high average for the series.
Listen to this. Kobe Bryant's 11 points. Shaq 14 points.
Wow.
That's just
They would lock you up in the Hague.
Yeah.
If as like an official, if you allowed a series to happen where Kobe got 11 points in one game, I'd be like, you are doing crimes against humanity. Whatever's going on here, like I don't know what's going on.
Doesn't even
but whatever's
happen.
going on here, you need to stop it.
Yeah. This is bad for the sport. We can't allow this to happen. Quick, somebody induce them to start fighting in the crowd.
Oh my God.
And that's Talking Pistons right there.
There you go. Yeah.
We don't. I'm not super excited by friendlies for the national team.
Yeah.
But I do think it's funny that Weston announced it.
That's hysterical. And that's very well done to all involved on that one.
My only interest in this is who's being paid and getting the All Expanse paid trip from the American Outlaws to come here and tell us how to be fans.
Careful. I guess it's
also,
worth pointing out.
If you know someone on the American Outlaws, tell them to call their tax advisor.
Yeah, they got some paperwork that they're behind on. It's worth pointing out the
apparently
US
they're no longer tax exempt. So if they haven't been paying taxes,
might want to get on that. The U.S. already qualified for the 2026 World Cup. Duh, we're hosts, but it means they don't have to play qualifiers. And while that feels super obvious, it does mean the U.S. will have a large hole in their roster going forward where the rest of the world
his name's
has
Gio
matches.
Reyna. Hey-o.
Whoa. The rest of the world has matches. So you're going to see a lot of these weird friendlies with like nations that are in weird spots in their roster, or like you'll get, they've done this with Eastern European teams before as well, where it'll be like the Hungarian national team, but it's their all domestic U23 roster or whatever. You're going to see a lot of these like weird friendlies that'll pop up over the next couple of years is my guess. The nations leagues around the world have really killed off the high profile international friendly. We used to play, Brazil and Germany and England regularly, and that's just not going to happen. So to
Mexico
finish up,
got a penalty and just missed it. Sorry.
No, that's good. What are we, the 85th minute or so?
88th minute.
I love it. Oh,
Still 1-0 Venezuela.
That is so good.
And some Venezuelan guy is all up in that guy's head right now. He's got his mouth covered. He's just jawing at him. It's very funny. Kevin, you had some Patreon questions?
Yes, this leads us finally to some Patreon questions, and then we'll do the preview. But if you would like to give us money, please do that. You can find links in the description or other places. I think on our website we have a link. That'd be weird if we didn't. So you've got that. And with that, by giving us a couple of bucks a month, you can ask us a question, which we read on the podcast, which is what I am reading now. Sed asked, are you aware of any big names FC Cincinnati is pursuing this summer in the transfer window? Can't think of a single one.
Not one.
Sarah Gorman of D&D fame asks, which common soccer training drill or skills challenge event would you choose if you had to participate in one with the FC Cincinnati players?
Jesus.
I like this question. I have an answer, so I'll go first. I'll let you guys think about it. My favorite drill, and it's not even a drill, my favorite little game, sharks and minnows, because I feel like as a shark, I could get a ball off of somebody. I feel like that would be fun.
I feel just based on physical attributes, I got to pick stop and PKs, right?
It's a follow-up question for that, but that's a good one. Okay, stop.
The problem
PK.
is, like, it feels like it would hurt to dive. Like, that doesn't feel comfortable.
That is, you'll see a lot of the goalkeeper training, especially before a match, is just getting them used to jumping on the ground because some psychological barriers you got to overcome with that.
So when I was a kid at our church festival, there was a booth that was like, it had like a wooden board with a hole in it. And it was like, if you kick, it was like from like,
they did this at your church?
At a church festival. Yeah, okay. I know what you mean.
Nope.
I am Catholic, so they probably did. I just, but this was out in the open, and it was I think it was like Played Against Sports or something. But it was like if you kicked the ball through the hole in the ground, you got like a little door prize or something. But if you kicked it through the hole in the air, you got like a nicer prize.
Ooh.
And I got people to like give me $1 to do the kick for them to get it through the hole in the air. And I was pretty good at it. And won people like a lot of like water bottles. So I guess what I would say is I would do the crossbar challenge.
Wow.
Like I'm not saying like I'm not as good. I'm not saying I'm as good at it as a pro, but I am saying that like of the things I've seen people do, that involves the least amount of running.
That's good.
I could, at least from like a couple of distances, I feel a little confident I could hit the crossbar.
It's also one that, like, even from videos I've seen, the pros aren't even particularly good at either.
Because why would that be?
Yeah, it's a weird.
They're working on being pros.
It's a weird thing to get good at.
They're not worried about hitting the crossbar. They're trying not to hit it.
Unless you're that the viral video of Ronaldinho doing that, which I hate to break this to everybody, but that is fake. It was from a series of Adidas campaigns that were clearly fake. But Ronaldinho's legend was so strong that people to this day are convinced that was a real thing. This is a good question. And Chief, I want to follow up on yours. This is from Seth Ransoff, who asks, which is more likely you score an old school MLS run-up penalty against Roman, or you save an old school MLS run-up penalty from Buka?
I mean, Roman's taking the ball off my foot. Like, I'm not even getting a shot off if it's a running PK and he can come out of his net. Like, I've got no chance on that. I'm going to take my chances with Buka on the running PK, and I'm just going to stay as far back as possible the entire time and just hope for the best.
That's an interesting strategy.
Roman's dispossessing me. Like, Roman's sizing me up, and he's like, I'm just going to go out and get the ball before he can shoot.
There was like a time limit for the old school MLS PK, right?
They had like a 5-second shot clock or something like this.
Yeah, that's where they get you.
Yeah.
Because like if you were like, I could get the ball at midfield or whatever untimed.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not making it there in 5 seconds. Let's be real.
That's the other thing.
That's a long way to run.
Now, I don't think it was from midfield. I think it was from 35 yards out, which is basically the penalty box again. So you're in the middle of the midfield there.
Why are running PKs not a thing at the MLS All-Star Game? They should bring running PKs back for the MLS All-Star Game.
That's the time to do it.
That should be goalie wars. Goalies doing running PKs against each other.
Running PKs are kind of like the Oklahoma drill of soccer. Like, and it should be goalie on goalie. Like Roman versus Roman in running PKs.
Yeah.
This is how they should settle the Euros when they have the ties, too. As opposed to this bullshit of who got the fewest yellow card. Make the goalies take, or the coaches take, running PKs against one another.
I'll say since Roman came on the podcast, I'm not going to pick against him. And I'm stopping a shot from Buka.
I'll say since Roman came on the podcast, I am picking against him. He has poor judgment skills.
Dude, the postcast bump is coming for you, Kevin.
But no, thank you, Seth, for the question. I've got two more for us. Luke Alton, who asks, you were talking about a version of Gary for a potential NWSL team. The real question is, what is the NWSL team version of Opie? I will say, this is Jonah's question to answer. So if Jonah makes it this far into the podcast and hears this.
This is a deep track reference. If you get this, you get this. If you don't, you don't. The answer is it's a mascot version of Doug Funny's sister from the show Doug.
Wow.
I was actually going to say, who is Stan's sister from South Park?
Oh, I know the girl with the retainer.
Yeah.
Yes. What is her name?
I'll accept that too.
Oh,
it's not Wendy. It's
it might be Wendy.
No, Wendy's his girlfriend. Shelley.
It's Shelley.
That's
Shelley.
That's it. Wow. So good. That's the answer. But the true answer has to come from Jonah. That's important. And then finally, Ian Rexrode asks, at what point did you realize you were more than just a fan of the FC and had to become a full-on supporter?
I reject the distinction. All people are supporters. There's no distinction between fans and supporters. Everyone supports in their own way.
I think that there is a clear distinction.
I'm not going to tell you how to fan. However you find the FC and whatever your relationship with the FC is, I'm going to embrace that and embrace you as part of our larger community.
That's interesting.
I reject the label of being called a supporter. I've never been like active in an SG.
It's true.
I've been a member, but like, come on.
Who hasn't?
I didn't do anything for it.
Just wanted the scarf.
I wrote a whole speculative future fiction series kind of mocking the idea of SGs.
Which is still my favorite thing we've ever published.
So I don't know. I guess I don't have an answer to this.
I'll take this opportunity to say I think a supporter is somebody who follows the team day in and day out, is deeply entrenched in it. I think a fan is essentially a casual observer of the team. They may like the team, but I do think that there's a distinction between the two of them. Like I would describe myself as being a fan of Everton, for example. I'm a Bengals fan. I am not a Bengals supporter. I am not living and breathing tailgate culture and season ticket holder and making banners. And I do think that there is a degree there that I would separate.
And so when did it hit for you then, Kevin?
Somewhere between yelling at the chief on Reddit and
we've all been there.
And that was fun. I think that actually might have been it. I think you and I got in a nice back and forth, a very, mature, level-headed conversation on Reddit.
And to be fair, we had never met in person at this point.
Nope.
Which was wild. Which, like all good internet arguments should be. But continue, please.
So what I remember, I was harping on the authenticity of fan groups, and I realized as I was writing it that the only way to not be a hypocrite from that point forward was to get involved.
Yeah.
And I did, and here I am.
Now, see, the problem is you can never be worried about being a hypocrite. The answer to all of it is just, well, it's different when you're in my position.
Right. I've got other considerations that you don't notice. So there you go.
Or in the alternatives, fuck you, don't tell me how to be a fan.
Right. Well, then the first or second blog post I ever wrote was "Don't do the wave in the Bailey." So I've been telling people how to be a fan for a long time.
This is in fact accurate.
And that'll do it for the Patreon questions, at least for this episode.
Yeah, to give an honest answer to that question, I don't think I was ever a fan of this team. I just started right at whatever that higher level was before they even kicked off, which is really like that's
true.
A sign of psychopathic behavior. Is that I was ride or die for something that didn't exist.
A leaked logo, and you're like, I will murder somebody for this.
I'm like, tell me where we're having the fight. I want to join the hooligans first out.
Chief, is it fair to say you were amongst the first 25 fans of this team?
Certainly one of the first, I don't know, fans.
Yeah, I don't.
Like in supporters culture. Yeah, I think. I don't know.
In supporters, I don't know exactly when you came in. You were in the first 10 or so, yeah?
Thereabouts.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's been a long time. It's been a long time and a lot of weird shit. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like,
I'd trade it for the world. The world's a lot.
The world. What would I do with the world if I had the world? Like, just shout at it for not doing what I wanted? It's like the whole thing.
Ronaldo to FCC.
It's like God stays in heaven because he's afraid of what he's created. Like I don't want to. I don't want any part of that. No, there are. At some point, we'll have story time, and boy, do I have a lot of stories to tell that are just wild, including meeting with someone who ended up in federal prison. When it came to getting the stadium built in Cincinnati. So
probably multiple someones.
Yeah, I was going to say at least 2.
Yeah.
Maybe
one
3.
that most people don't. Well, no, he was pretty notorious too. Anyway, we'll have story time with the Chief at some point. When we get really desperate for content.
Yeah. But until then, we have an FC Dallas match to preview. So let's do that in part 3. All right, we're back, part 3, and there's a match this weekend. FC Dallas hosting the FC Cincinnati. Fun one, Central Time Zone, so the kickoff is 8:30, so you get to enjoy the first half of all of the East Coast kickoffs. So that's, I feel like, yeah, as we discussed with the San Jose match, the further west the match is, the more enjoyable the MLS Season Pass product is. So this will be a good use of your subscription there. FC Dallas did just fire their manager. So they've been
perfect
in a bit of a funky spot there. They're just outside of the playoff spots for the Western Conference, which is to say, in general, they're not a great team. -4 goal differential, just a little under 500 for the season. Notable for this one, FC Cincinnati is without Wobodo with the red card. Matt Miazga, as we had mentioned before, gone for the season. Miles Robinson still on international duty. It's going to be a funky look for FCC, I think. I think you see Murphy and Keller for sure. I would suspect, unless somebody has a better idea, that you see Alvis Powell as your right center back with everybody else in their natural positions. Now, here's the weird one. Malik Pinto went down in FCC 2 with an injury. I don't have an update for us.
I haven't seen anything, if anything's out there.
I'd assume he's not going to play in this game, even if he is doing better. So that would move Yuya Kubo likely to the midfield with Kelsey and Dado up top. That would be my guess as to how this team lines up. How confident do we feel in this match? What are the vibes, Grayson, going into this match?
I think the vibes are curious.
I like curious vibes.
I'll be honest with you, like you say the roster out there, and I'm like,
that's fine.
That's a dub.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
right.
I don't know. Like, so Dallas has not been good. They're 11th in the West. They've given up more goals than they've scored. They've given up more goals than us this year, like way more, and scored way fewer than us this year. And so even with the Miazga out, even with the Haglund out, even with the Robinson out, this feels like a game that's like there, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just worried about the midfield with Wobodo out. Pinto, if there's been a report Pinto's been training this week, I haven't seen it. Mm-mm. I'm especially guessing that it would have been noted that he was training because they've had FCC2 players in training for most of the week, filling out numbers so that they could run full small side games and have all the drills completed. It would not surprise me in this game if we saw a couple of players from FCC2 make short-term loan appearances. The name particularly that I would watch out for is Nico Ben Alcazar. Mm-hmm. I believe he is a defensive play. He can play center back, but he's a defender by trade. They're incredibly thin at that position right now. I just don't know what to expect, though, in the midfield without... You would want... If your center backs are thin, you'd want Wobodo out there protecting the inexperience and the positional shifting. Now you're talking about that and not having Wobodo out there to provide backup.
Yeah, and Ben Alcazar has played...
NYCFC he's played, right?
Yeah. And he's played central midfield. He's played defensive midfield. So, like, he provides depth at a couple of positions. And so I agree with Chief that he makes sense for, like, a short-term loan. Because with Obi out and Pinto apparently hurt, what is your midfield sub? Steven Jimenez?
Who's your starter at that position?
Oh, it's Kubo.
Kubo?
Yeah.
Ben Alcazar, according to FOTMob, against Philadelphia Union 2, started at striker. Again, according to FOTMob, I don't know how keyed in it is to MLS
he was signed as a defender. He's played 100%. Center back. He's played defensive mid. If they're using him as striker, God love him.
Transfer Market has him in the midfield next to, like, at central, in the center of the midfield.
Yeah, and that is where he is typically deployed for the FCC2.
And he's mostly played center back through his career. So I agree with Chief. Like, looking at the roster, you have Steven Jimenez, who's a midfield player. Like Dotto is not a defensive midfield sub.
No.
So yeah, it does feel kind of necessary to.
I mean, the other option.
Who am I missing?
Agado. Sorry.
Yeah, but he's like kind of strictly a center back, right?
Yeah, he's not a midfielder.
Oh,
I mean, I get
midfield. Yeah,
like you need somebody. I think you need somebody who could be a body in midfield. Like you need somebody with a little bit of versatility. And
has Yedlin ever played defensive mid?
God, I hope. I really don't want that.
No.
You'd probably put Assad as your box to box replacement and ask Buka to take over defensive responsibilities.
I'm looking at FCC2's roster.
Which we should point out, Chris Marshall was recently awarded.
Not Chris Marshall.
Marshall is Our prayers are with Chris Marshall. I think he's going under the knife here soon.
Yes.
Yeah, get well soon, Chris
just
Marshall.
Just had open heart surgery. No, Tyrone Marshall, excuse me, was just awarded the sort of mid-season coach of the mid-season award in MLS Next Pro. In the Eastern Conference, FCC 2 is sitting at second place. I mean, FCC is also sitting in second place in the Eastern Conference. Hell of a turnaround, because when we spoke to oh my gosh, Tyler Snipes, I was asking if Marshall deserved to have the job, and all of a sudden he's the best in the league. So
which is another type of postcast bump. I
want to be clear that Tyler Snipes has nothing to do with what stupid questions Kevin asks.
This is accurate.
We had him on part because he is more knowledgeable about MLS Next Pro than other people.
Yep.
And at that point, he came to Marshall's defense and was very complimentary of Marshall. But I think everybody could recognize the results had not been good up until that point. So
yeah, the results weren't there. But I think, like with Tyrone's interim coaching stint,
not his fault.
There may have been other considerations beyond getting results.
Yeah.
The other name for the midfield, too, looking over FCC2's roster, just to keep an eye on, might be Dem, who was the super draft pick out of Dayton. Now, I think there were some delays getting him signed to his professional deal, but everything that I've seen is that the coaching staff was pretty high on him. I think he's probably behind Ben Alcazar if you're looking for a short-term call-up, just because Ben Alcazar actually has minutes in MLS. But I agree with Grayson in this regard that it's thin. It's really, really thin. And to me, the optimum result from this game is just staying healthy.
Yep.
Is that right now, like, this team, more than points in a road match like this team just needs to stay healthy until the transfer window opens up.
Dem, 3 goals, 2 assists in 3 starts, played in 4 matches. That's 3 goals and 2 assists in 189 minutes.
Yeah, so I'm going to say that I don't know. I'm not going to say the name of this person, because I don't know if they said this on the podcast or off the podcast.
Okay.
But somebody did tell us that Dem had a game.
He certainly has the pedigree.
Yeah. And that seems to be true based on early returns.
Yeah. I don't think if he was, because frankly, the draft is important so long as you can find a Nagby in the draft, but if you can't, you can't. I don't think the team would have pursued.
Why is he not listed on the
website?
FC Cincinnati 2 roster? Where do you even find him?
There was something weird about him signing that took a while.
He had like a visa issue.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I don't think the team pursues the visa issue unless he's a really good player, because like you're not going to work your ass off for a guy.
He's got 4 games played, 3 starts. 3 goals, 2 assists.
I mean,
knowing nothing
let's do it. About those
87.8 pass percentage.
Let's do it. The hell with it. Let's get crazy.
Yeah. FotMob has his average player rating as an 8.0, which is incredible.
Right.
Like, I mean, honestly, loan them both up. Because you get 4 loans.
Like the Briscoes, we dem boys. Let's do this.
Because here's the thing, right? Like, it's not just you don't have any subs for the midfield. At striker, who are your subs? You have Santos and Bupenza.
Maybe Baird.
He's still been working off to the side. He hasn't joined the full team for training still.
Yeah, he's still, working on his hip slides or whatever.
Yeah, whatever happened to him, poor guy.
He's doing like the Russell Wilson drill up and down the field by himself.
It's kind of funny that like they're like with the Miazga injury and the Hagelin injury. As far as I can tell, nobody has asked a single question about like where Corey Baird has been.
Well, he's
'Cause, 'cause you get 4 games played, 3 starts. 3 goals, 2 assists. I mean, honestly, loan them both up. Like, because you get 4 loans.
Are they keeping him fresh for the inevitable trade? Gam and Corey Baird for your third best center back, please.
Yeah, it would just be interesting to have like some type of acknowledgement of like, is he on the team?
Yeah.
It'd be like,
maybe he retired.
No, what they're saving him for is that horseshit sports cliche where it's like, and look, we got Corey Baird back healthy. That's like signing a player at the deadline.
Yeah, so you're gonna sign McKennie and be like, oh yeah, Baird coming back as like a new striker signing.
Does Corey Baird have any youth national team call-ups where he might have played with some of these guys? It feels like
he played with Evan Loro.
Perfect.
They were roommates in the youth national team.
And again,
Did
like
he
we
ever
talked
play
about,
with McKennie?
I don't think so. I think he's too old.
No, it's
Yeah.
like we talked about in the last episode. Just when the Olympics comes calling, send Corey Baird and just have a shirt wearing like I'm Miles Robinson and just dare someone to question it.
Oh, so good.
Should we predict this game?
I
Shall.
guess.
All right. I'll start.
Yeah, Chiefs, start us off.
I think we lose this game.
Ooh, bold.
I think 2-1.
I think this is a wild game, and I think we draw 3-3.
So first of all, actually, Corey Baird has played with Weston McKennie.
Boom.
So that's what he's been doing. He's been recruiting Weston. He hasn't been.
Secret agent.
They've been in the national team together 3 times.
My God. It felt right.
They have no minutes played together.
That's fine.
It's all right. They talk to the
It's
bench.
the dorm time. It's the training time. That's fine.
It was in 1819 and 1920. They played against Ecuador, Cuba, and Canada. I don't think Baird played any of those games. I think McKennie played in all of them.
And Baird was invited to camp. That's all we need.
Yeah,
That's
Baird,
perfect.
had a nice time with his friends.
Yeah.
I think FC Cincinnati wins 3-2.
Gone are the days of predicting us to win 1-0 or 2-0. This is
certainly those are gone.
This is in the Lord help us Roman time of our season. Well, there you go. Chief, the San Diego NWSL team seems to be in complete disarray. Feels like a good time to rub salt in the wound.
Yeah. Instant day one rivalry on site when NWSL to Cincinnati finally comes to fruition later this summer. Until then, go fuck yourself, San Diego.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Cincy Postcast. It is a production of The Post Cincy. You can check us out at thepostcincy.com or just click a link in the description to check out some of our written work. It also has links to our social media accounts across all sorts of different platforms, including YouTube, where we are trying to do more and more video content. Please, dare I say it, like and subscribe and leave a comment. But no, that would be really, really helpful. Also want to give a thank you to Jim Trace and the Makers. They're a local Cincinnati band who provided all of the music for this episode. We love having them on board. You can check them out. Again, link in the description of this episode to find out where they might be playing shows next or where you can listen to more of their music. Also want to give a massive, massive thank you to the awesome and very attractive patrons over on Patreon. It is a voluntary subscription that people take out with no real promise of anything extra that keep this show afloat. And we are so, so thankful to those of you that have decided to take that commitment. if you do like the show, or at least just want to engage with other people who have listened to the show and want to talk about FC Cincinnati, MLS, soccer, or really anything else, you can go on over to Discord. Again, link in the description. Lots of links in the description where you can find a link to the Discord. That's where we are keeping the conversation going 24/7. It feels like it's a really fun group of people in there just talking about FC Cincinnati. And like I said, just about everything else. And finally, I'll say it. If you liked this episode, and given the fact that you've made it all the way to the end, I have to assume you either like it or for some reason cannot reach the stop button. Please share this episode with a friend or family member or someone who likes FC Cincinnati. The best way for us to grow is from a personal recommendation from somebody who likes it. And if that's you, please tell other people. And if you don't have any friends, feel free to give us a review on whatever your podcast platform of choice is. We'll take anything we can get. But again, a huge, huge thank you to everybody for listening to this show. I am blown away that anybody listens to this. So again, I well and truly mean this. Thank you so much for listening.